The Vanderbilt Commodores and Alabama Crimson Tide set to do battle in Nashville, Tennessee. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between the Doors and the Crimson Tide. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Dave Shumate. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Go to RHOBACK.com. Use promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Again, guys, that's RHOBACK.com, promo code SECU to get 20% off today. Alabama, coming off arguably the most impressive win early in the 2024 college football season, will head to Nashville, Tennessee to take on a Vanderbilt team that's not your Commodores group of old. They gave Missouri a real scare in their last time out. Vandy and Alabama set to do battle. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Dave Shumate. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game. Dave, really appreciate you taking the time and excited to deep dive into this one with you.
Yeah. Vanderbilt coming off the bye week, Bama coming off the big win. You see the mouse traps all over the Mountain Moore facility in Tuscaloosa, just trying to keep Bama hungry, keep them focused on the next week, that 1-0 mentality. It sounds cliche, but in the world of college football, I think you do have to just hone it in, lock in on like a 500-foot angle and make a look. It's just Vanderbilt this week, guys. Can't get too far ahead. Can't be living in the past and last week. So then Kalen DeBoer and staff, that'll be their biggest challenge this week against them. I think we can all attest, probably Clark Lee's best Vanderbilt team since he's been in Nashville. It's an energetic team. You go watch the film. I saw Kane Womack mention it. And when I went back and watched their game against Missouri, you can tell their sidelines like a lot more into it. They're more energized. You feel like they're kind of rowing the boat in the same direction. Diego Pavia is a guy that brings that extra juice. He's that X factor for them. Did a phenomenal job hiring Tim Beck and those guys from New Mexico State. Think that gives them an edge. Should be a fun matchup. Again, it'll be interesting to see where Vanderbilt picks their shots to try to have a shot to be in this game in the second half. But nonetheless, this will be the best Vanderbilt team Alabama's played in a while, and they're coming off a big emotional win, Vanderbilt off a bye. So we'll see how Alabama responds if the big emotional win, first big emotional win in the DeBoer era.
Dave, mouse traps around the facility. You ever heard anything like that? Does that happen?
We've obviously heard of the Nick Saban rat poison. We hear that. See, Lane Kiffin kind of adopted that now, but I don't think we've seen the physical mouse traps.
Physical mouse traps. Facility. Keeping everybody on their toes.
What if Tyler Booker walks into that and his toes just crushed through the mousetrap? I mean, then that plan backfired.
That's going to be an interesting injury report if somebody goes down due to a mousetrap. I can tell you that. Again, guys, this game taking place Saturday in Nashville, a 3:15 p.m. local time kickoff there at First Bank Stadium, being televised on SEC Network. Dave, Alabama in this game is a 23-point favorite. The over-under is set at 55.5 total points. Series history, Bama leads this one 60-19-4. And the last meeting, Dave, 2022, Bama won that one by a final score of 55-3. Dave, what year was it when the Vanderbilt guy went on TV and said, "Hey, Bama, you're next. Bama, you're next." Boy, were they ever. I think that was like 59-0.
What was Jalen Hurts' famous quote from that? It was leading up to the week. They're like, "What do you think about that?" He's like, "I mean, theoretically, he's right. We are next to them."
Yeah, Alabama took care of business. Davis, we dive into this matchup. Again, I think you got to start with the Alabama perspective. And like you said, I mean, the mousetraps around the facility coming off the emotional win against Georgia. I feel like that's priority number one for the Crimson Tide, right? Because obviously if Alabama, they're even with Vandy being better this year, Bama is the far superior talented team. If they go out there and handle their business, they're going to win this game, probably win it handily. But that's got to be the number one focus, right, in the building is just, hey, lock in on Vandy. Can you approach this week the same way you approach Georgia? Or at least really close to it, right? I mean, human nature kicks in at some point. These are 18 to 22-year-old kids. But, I think how Kalen DeBoer, you have to get yourself up, Dave, off the mat after a loss. You kind of have to do that after a big emotional win, too. Yeah. I'm curious to see just how Bama responds. Do they come out kind of like they did against Georgia, high-flying, foot on the gas pedal, or do we see sort of a hangover from the big Georgia win?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. And we've never seen Kalen DeBoer have to do this at Alabama. Obviously, he's had to do it in his career, even going to Sioux Falls, Fresno, and Washington. But from an SEC standpoint, everybody locked in. How is he internally handling this? this team seems a little bit player-led, and I think that's how Kalen DeBoer really wants it to be. Because, again, the best teams are player-led. The coaches can only do so much. It's got to be reinforced at the player level. That starts with guys like Tyler Book, who I mentioned earlier, Malachi Moore. Can they translate that over to be, hey, guys, we have a business trip when we go to Nashville. This is an improved Vanderbilt team. They're going to throw some stuff at us from a scheme standpoint with Diego Pavia and Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator. You heard Kane Womack bring it up, that you're not going to see like the rest of the year. So it's not your grandmas or your grandpas Vanderbilt here. They're not running the same scheme everyone else in the league, and they just have it with lesser personnel. No, they're running more of a spread triple option, and I'll be interested to see where Vanderbilt feels like they can kind of take their chances. They've had 2 weeks to prep. I don't know. I'm fired up to see this matchup. How hungry is Alabama coming into this one? You always knew Nick Saban was going to do a good job of bringing his team back down to earth. These are the weeks he was harder on his team compared to how they were after losses, obviously. So you're right. I think that's the storyline. How fast can Bama get off to a quick start? I think in these games like this, if you can get off to a quick start, get up 2 scores quick, kind of leaves a lot of doubt in teams like Vanderbilt. And then you can kind of go pull away. And again, I know Bama came off a bye week 2 weeks ago, but again, you played a very physical game against Georgia last week, emotional toll. You want to get out of that with some injuries because, again, you got a big matchup against South Carolina and Tennessee coming up right after that as well. So that'll be something to keep in the back of your head too. You want to get off to a quick start so you're not having to play a bunch of your guys that you're going to need in the middle to the back half of the season late in this game in Nashville.
Yeah, Dave, you jumped out to that lead early, and I think it just eliminates any real hope of the opponent thinking they can win the football game. Obviously, it's one of those games where the longer you let them hang around, the more they believe, and then you get late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and it's a one-score game, and that team on the other sideline, they don't know they're not supposed to win, right? So that's where it can get dangerous. You mentioned Diego Pavia. You look at the last game, last time Vandy was out, Dave, and Missouri's a quality squad. How good they are, we're going to find out, but what they did, taking the Tigers to overtime in that game in Como. I believe it was double OT, right? It was double overtime in that game.
Double overtime.
Double overtime. Diego Pavia went 14 of 23, 178, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He also ran, Dave, which I think is going to be key, 17 times for 84 yards. If Vandy's going to have a shot, it's got to be the Diego Pavia show. I mean, this guy, he essentially compared himself to Johnny Manziel, said he was the new Johnny Football. He's going to have a Johnny Football type performance to give Vandy a shot in this one in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously going to have a big game. And Bama's sitting there because, Vanderbilt doesn't have a lot of overall great players around him.
They've got McVay, Sherrill, Quincy Skinner.
Big day from Diego Pavia. If I'm Vanderbilt and Tim Beck, I'm testing it through the air a little bit. Maybe we get some flat. You put the ball in the air. Good things can happen, whether you catch it, you make the reception, or maybe, hey, a young Alabama secondary is not really locked in this week. They're kind of face guarding. Maybe you get some penalties, 15 yards down. You move the ball without actually having to actually make a ton of plays. You're just putting yourself in a position to play. Look at Georgia in the second half, just bombs over Baghdad. I get it. Vanderbilt's probably not going to come do that right out of the gate. But if I'm them, I'm aggressive in this game. You really have nothing to lose. Sometimes I don't understand these teams who are underdogs. It's like, man, just be different a little bit this week. It's going to provide some juice to your team. They're going to be, man, all right, we're kind of going for these guys' throats right off the bat. I kind of like that. Gets the team locked in, more fired up. I don't know. Again, they may do that. I hope they do, but it'll be interesting just to see how they go about their game plan offensively from that perspective.
From the Alabama perspective, Dave, my question, what does Ryan Williams do next, right? It's just like this dude is such a human highlight reel. He's been so good. Jalen Milroe, obviously, who I think all of a sudden the Heisman campaign is starting to pick up steam. If you're Alabama, besides a win, which I think is a given, after that Georgia game, a game in which it was truly a tale of two halves, what are you most looking to accomplish this week if you're the Crimson Tide?
If you're Alabama offensively?
Well, both offensively, defensively, just as a whole. I think there's obviously things as impressive as the Georgia game was. There's definitely things you want to clean up from that performance.
Yeah, I think defensively, probably some communication and stuff on the back end. And again, I don't really know if Vanderbilt's really going to test you. It's not a great third down offense. They don't really like to just sling the football. So the secondary may not get that tested this week, but it is throwing a different scheme at some young guys on the edge where, hey, their eye discipline. It's really going to test their eye discipline, their maturity overall from that standpoint, staying disciplined and doing their job. So I'm looking forward to that on offense. Yeah, from an Alabama perspective, you probably get the run game going a little more. Like again, I feel like they were motioning so much, they were going in empty, doing stuff Georgia hadn't seen last week. Like trying to establish that run game, get that going. Again, Richard Young's banged up a little bit. You don't want to go run Jalen Milroe or Justice Haynes into the ground. But I feel like you do want to get back on and kind of establish that run game. Again, I don't really think Bama's going to go show a whole lot in the passing game this week. They probably don't figure they have to. I'm not trying to sound like an arrogant from an Alabama standpoint. I'm just trying to be real with Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer here. I think they're probably like, look, let's go see if we can. We need to get physical. At some point, we're going to have to go run the football to go win this game, to go win a big game. Maybe they get it started this week in Nashville.
I would definitely think, Dave, to your point, that the run game would be a focus because, like you said, you want to establish the fact that when we want to, we can. And I think this is a week where you have an opponent, to your point, it's not being disrespectful, it's just honest, right? Like it's an opponent you should be able to run the football with success. I think in the second half, Georgia, obviously with their adjustments, dictated what you could and could not do, and it really bogged down. I think Bama's going to want to obviously get off on the right foot and establish the running game. I mean, the running game last weekend was Jalen Milroe, right? I mean, Justice Haynes went 6 for 35. Outside of that, Jam Miller went 5 for 8. That's what your running backs did in the game. So I'd imagine, establishing the run, and certainly Jalen Milroe with his legs, you want him to be himself and do his thing. But, I'd have to imagine, to your point, Dave, they want to establish the run, get the running game going, and be able to feel good about that, coming out of this ball game. Because, again, the teams that win the most, the best teams, they win in a multitude of ways. And you want to be able to, when you need to, go to your calling card of being physical and running the football and moving bodies. So, which I think they should be able to do in this game.
No, you're right. I mean, you factor in Vanderbilt's not great on third down defense. They're not great in the red zone. They give up, I'm looking at it now, 50-plus yard play. They've given up the most 50-plus yard plays of anyone in the conference. You can tell there's an issue on the athletic side of things on the back end of the Vanderbilt secondary that I thought Missouri could have taken. That I thought they would take advantage of. They obviously didn't give Vanderbilt credit. But I do think Bama's probably going to be like, all right, if we can just get into some third and manageable situations, they're not good on third down. If we can just get in the red zone, we'll be all right. And again, Bama scores from far. They're a big, explosive team. Maybe this is the week they kind of hone in and kind of like, hey, like, let's go kind of take this bit by bit here. Let's see what we can do on the red zone. Again, they want to score any way possible. They're not turning down scores. But I think this allows them to, hey, they would never admit this publicly, but I think it's hey, maybe we can work on some stuff in the red zone here because it may, we may run this play and it may not work, but it may not cost us a win this week. We may have to settle for a field goal, but you know what? We can come back to that. We put it on film. I'm going to make Tennessee in a couple of weeks have to prepare for that kind of stuff like that. I could see Bama working on a bunch of their red zone stuff. If they can get in it and they're not scoring from far.
You think Clark Lee's sweating bullets this week, Dave? Preparing for Jalen Milroe? I mean, again, he's the defensive guy, and obviously he's taken over the defense. I just can't imagine his thoughts, looking for an answer for Jalen Milroe in that offense.
Yeah, I mean, where do you start attacking this defense from that perspective? I mean, if you're aggressive, you're putting a lot of your corners who are limited athletically, especially against, I think this is one of Bama's more athletic, like overall just faster wide receiver groups they've had in a while, probably since 2020. But if you do that, you're putting your secondary in some tough situations. If you lay back, Jalen Milroe will take off. Again, you're going to get out-athleted, out-playered, out-personnel. I'd go down swinging. I mean, again, I think we've seen at times Jalen Milroe, when you get pressure in the A-gap, he can get a little uncomfortable. Again, he's not real turnover prone, never been. He's been better about not taking sacks this year. Last year, that was an issue, but you've seen the maturation process of him. If I'm Clark Lee, I would go test to see how mature he is from that perspective. I'd probably come after him. I mean, I'm not going to sit back and let him just beat me with his legs. Like, come on, you're going to have to go make some throws. If I'm Clark Lee, I'm going to be aggressive. That's how I would attack Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, I think to your point, Dave, you have to be aggressive in this one. Like you said, 23-point home underdogs. Nobody is expecting you to win this game and probably even compete. With that being said, Dave, let's lock in our predictions for this one. I'll start with you. You cooking up a Commodores upset, or does Bama go into Nashville and handle their business?
The start again, it's kind of. I mean, Alabama's going to win this game. It's like we've never seen them come off a big win off Kalen DeBoer. So I'm interested to see how the team comes out. They get off to a quick start, put this away early, or is it like a 10-point third? Is it like maybe a 27 lead at half? Vanderbilt's still maybe somewhat in the game. I mean, if I'm Bama, I come out there and kind of just go for the throat early. Like, get your explosive plays, and then let's settle into the run game. Let's get out of here. Let's get a quick second half. I think Bama ends up winning this game something like, I'm going to go like 44-13. I think the fourth quarter, you see a lot of Ty Simpson. You see a lot of some young cats, some young guys they're trying to develop to get in there. You probably see Wilkin Formby again. I know Alabama fans are going to like it, be fired up about that. Last time you saw him at South Florida, he got pulled because he was playing bad, had a bunch of penalties. But they're going to try to get some depth guys here. I just think Bama gets off to a good start. I think they lean on the run game to finish the half, and then by the end of the third quarter, I think you see them start benching some guys as they get ready for that, which could be a massive game for them if South Carolina were to beat Ole Miss this week. With South Carolina coming to town, be a big SEC game. They get ready for that next 2-week stretch of South Carolina and then going to Knoxville. Bama gets it done. Give me 44-13.
Dave, great minds think alike, because I've got Alabama 42, Vanderbilt 13. And again, we don't share notes beforehand, guys, so this is totally random. Dave Shumate and I are we totally agree with this one. Yeah, I mean, listen, I love the story of Diego Pavia and you know how improved Vandy is, and they took Mizzou down to the wire, and you know they've been a great story, man. They really have. But this is a challenge unlike anything they've ever faced. Fun fact, by the way, Dave, it means nothing for the game itself. Vanderbilt is wearing black uniforms at home for the first, or excuse me, black helmets, not uniforms, black helmets at home for the first time since 1983 against the Crimson Tide. I saw that this morning right before we went live.
Not going with the gold, huh?
Not going with the gold. They're going with the matte black helmets, which look great. They're going to look good, but it won't matter. I think Bama, like to your point, that offense is maybe the best in the country. I just don't think Diego Pavia is going to be able to make enough plays in this ball game to even really make it close. I agree with you. I think it's a Ty Simpson game for most of the second half. A lot of depth pieces will get action. You want to come out of this game, I think, primarily, Dave. Number one, you want to attack it the right way and start fast. And number two, you want to come out of it healthy. I think Bama will do both. I think they'll get the big win, 42-13. I got the Crimson Tide taking down the Commodores. So, fun afternoon for Alabama in Nashville. I'm sure Bama fans will have a great time down on Broadway celebrating the victory. Guys, do you agree with us? Do you disagree? How do you see this one playing out between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Vanderbilt Commodores at First Bank Stadium? Guys, that's going to do all for us. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get those. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.